Om. Namaste and welcome to another session in Sanatanam Arivom. Today we are going to talk about Savitri, an ideal woman whom we all can follow, whether we are a woman or a man or a child, doesn't matter. And why are we so excited about following Savitri? Let us take a quick look into what is so great about this lady. We will first understand the story and then we will try to connect it with our practical life. So, all of us have some problem or the other in life at some point or the other. And when we confront problems, we look towards people who have been in similar situations, look for their inspiration, how they solve the problem, and we try to emulate that. And as the chain keeps going higher and higher, it becomes more and more difficult to look up for a role model. If you are the highest role model yourself, who will you look up to? And the person we are talking about here is Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is the role model for all of us except in one or two things, in gambling and in making that one mistake where he kept humans as a pawn. Except for that, Yudhishthira is our role model. So when Yudhishthira himself crumbled and was worried about the problems, who did he look for inspiration? What was the situation that rattled Yudhishthira? We all know in Vanaparva, where the Pandavas spent 12 years in the forest, they underwent a lot of hardships. And mind you, they are coming straight from being the emperors. They were crowned emperors because of the Rajasuya Yajna, and then they lost everything. And during one such situation, Jayadratha, beg your pardon, Jayadratha, the husband of Dushala, the only sister of the Kauravas, he looks at Draupadi when the Pandavas had gone for hunting. Draupadi is a woman of ravishing beauty. Though she had given birth to children, she is still a very, very attractive woman, and especially to someone who doesn't follow dharma. And that was Jayadratha. So he kidnaps her after attacking Daumya, who was standing guard, and he took her away very far. Meanwhile, the Pandavas came back, understood the situation. Yudhishthira dispatched Bhima and Arjuna. Arjuna was able to spot him at a distance, and he took his horse down with specialized arrows that were empowered with mantras. And needless to say, Bhima, who is so fast, He is son of Vayu, right? So he narrows the gap so fast and he tackles this fellow. But for Arjuna's interference, we would have heard of a Jayadratha chutney. But they brought him back to Yudhishthira, who just shaved his head as a measure of showing the message to him not to wag his tail again at destitute women. After this episode, the Pandavas are arguing amongst themselves. Draupadi, of all women, is blemishless, blameless. Why is she undergoing so much trauma? Is there any real power behind Pativrata? That means a woman who is so devoted to her husband? That question keeps bothering them. And Markandeya Maharishi comes there and he tells them a lot of stories to uplift their broken hearts. And one such story he tells is the story of Satyavan Savitri. It is to highlight the exalted merit of chaste women rooted in Dharma and what happens because of that. We all remember Madra Desha, where Madri, the mother of Nakula Sagadeva, came from. In that kingdom, many generations before the Pandavas, way before the Pandavas, there was a Raja called Ashwapati. He was a very good, noble king, but he had one problem: he never had any children. So he did extreme tapasya for 18 years, seeking 100 sons, seeking many children. But he was meditating on Brahma. Brahma did not show up. Instead, Saraswati showed up. And she gives him the blessing of having one very excellent daughter who is the abode of wonderful qualities, exquisite beauty, and has got no parallel. So when his wife gave birth to that girl child, to honor Saraswati, they named the child Savitri. In due course of time, this girl grew into a very sought after maiden. She was grace personified. You look at her, there is nothing more beautiful than her. Not the mere physical Rupa Lavanya, but in terms of her quality. A woman is known for her beauty not because of the skin deep physique, because of her great qualities. Now there is a bigger problem for Ashwapati. He has to find a wonderful person to match this girl, and there seems to be no one. So scratching his head, he said like, okay, we will come with a new solution. So he told his daughter, if you find a real good boy of your liking, I am fine. I will approve. So he not only gave the consent, but he also encouraged her to go on expeditions searching for a good husband. And this is one of the message. What Savitri used to do was not go on shadi.com or some useless dadi.com or something like that. She would go from one ashram to another ashram, not merely seeking for a good husband, but for seeking dharma, seeking the wisdom, seeking highest information, and in the process also keeping a keen ear on whom the rishis are talking about. And most of the time she got only dead ends. But one day when she went to a rishi's ashrama and she came back, she was pleasantly surprised that Narada Maharishi was sitting with her father. Narada Maharishi asked, as if he didn't know anything, where did he go? What's happening? What's up at your end? So she bowed to him and she said, she has found a husband for herself. In the neighboring kingdom, there used to be a king called Dyumatsena, the kingdom of Salva, who had gone blind. So, using that opportunity, another neighboring kingdom enemy came and he took over that kingdom, and along with his wife Saivya and a newborn son he had got, he went and settled in an ashram. Now this boy, his name is called Satyavan. He is the abode of all Daivi qualities. Qualities that not only are desirable to any girl, but qualities that are attracting to anyone. So she looked at Satyavan, and she had not even looked at Satyavan. She had just heard about him. And she said, I have chosen this guy as my husband. Narada said, that seems to be an excellent choice, because this boy is like the sun in his energy, like Brihaspati in terms of his knowledge. He is very powerful like Indra, very, very patient like Bhuma Devi. But he has only one problem. Exactly 1 year from the date at this stipulated hour, he is going to die. Now the funny thing is, normally in our in our world, people, if they know somebody is going to be like that, what do? First of all, they don't love the person without, nowadays it's become so horrible, like people are aping the West, that they even want to test drive child bearing process even before accepting marriage. We have become like a car. Probably everybody is a used lemon now. But here is a girl who has not seen her potential future husband. She has already agreed that he is going to marry, and his death warrant is already announced to her. She says, thank you Narada ji for the advance information, but no thank you. He is still my husband. Ashwapati, he thought, what else? I have given my word to my daughter and she has made up her mind. Look at the quality of dharma, that when you give a word, it is a bond. We saw extensively last week about Harishchandra, how upholding Satya is the highest dharma, and one can go through any amount of problems to uphold Satya. So Ashwapati is not that much bothered. He is bothered for the welfare of his daughter, but he is not. His bigger botheration is, hey, am I going to stick to dharma or not? Now what happened? He approaches Dyumatsena, who is also a king, and he says, can you give your son's hand for my daughter? The blind king says, no, this is absolutely not possible. Look at my son, he has no kingdom. He is not even a Raja. And your daughter is a princess. Look at Dyumatsena's standard. He is a blind man living like a rishi, but he is more concerned about Savitri rather than looking and saying, hey, I got a good girl, probably the best girl any father-in-law could even dream of for his son, who is equally qualified. So there is a competition amongst people who will uphold the highest dharma. It's exactly opposite to how we are right now, where we are fighting who can drop the dharma the fastest. Sorry to make that observation, but that's what we see all around. But our golden standard is Savitri. So after all that discussions were over, finally Ashwapati gives the daughter in marriage, gives all sorts of lavish gifts because the only child, born after a long time. Now the minute her father's chariot went the other side, this girl says, excuse me, where is the changing room? And she goes and she comes out as another, almost like a hermit. She took away all her costly ornaments, costly clothes, and all the gifts and hid them in a pot. Nobody told her that. And the ashramites there in the surrounding ashrams, it's not one ashram, it's like a cluster of rishis living in that ashram complex. They were all baffled. This girl is of another level, they were wondering. Not only that, Savitri won everyone with her seva. When it came to her mother-in-law, which mother-in-law is gonna have, that's the all-time joke, right? Daughter-in-law, mother-in-law not getting together. But this mother-in-law is bowled over because this girl is like not letting her mother-in-law do anything. And while she is taking care of the mother-in-law, she is simultaneously providing personal care to Dyumatsena. She is like, okay, you know what, father, you can't walk. Let me walk you, let me hold you. Stretch your leg, let me massage your leg. Oh my God, this girl is bowling everyone. And on top of that, she has got excellent sense control. And as regards Satyavan, which good husband will not enjoy watching his parents being served this first class way? But the thing was that he had even extra level of attention. She always spoke so sweetly to him in a soft voice. And whatever work she is, how did she figure out? Who knows? And her temper is always the same. You will not find her up or down. Same sweet temperament. But beneath all this, though her externally only love was oozing out, all that was inside her was a little sorrow. That sorrow was so deep. It was there. The ache was there. The countdown for this husband is there. Every day she looks at him. Probably she might have thought a counter. Okay, one day less. Look at that pain that girl must have been in. It's amazing to even put words to understand that. For 1 full year, she is just doing seva, but she doesn't share her misery, her knowledge of his pending death. So, with now only 4 more days, on the 4th day he is going to die after 1 year. So, she figured out that husband is going to be gone in next 4 days, and she took a 3-day, 3-night, Triratra Vrata. That means 3 full days, 3 full nights, no food, no water, nothing, just. But that doesn't mean that she is sitting in one corner and okay, I am doing fasting. You guys come and serve me. No, no, no. She is also doing the work. She is also doing all the seva. And on top of that, she is just fasting. Look at that girl's grit and determination. And then what happened? All the rishis in that ashram location, that all the surrounding hermitage, they came and said, may you always be Saubhagyavati, Sumangali. May you never see widowhood. And that is from the depths of their heart, she is getting that blessing. And on the last day, the son, they said like, okay, now you can break your fast. She said, no, no, no. Tonight after Surya Astamana, I will have food. Okay. So the father-in-law, mother-in-law didn't say, this girl is very, very determined girl. She is only dedicated to her husband's well-being. So we can't say no. And then at the same time, Satyavan took his axe and said, okay, I am going to the woods. He used to go to the woods, collect the wood from the forest, and also he used to go to get some fruits and things like that from the forest. That axe was for not only self-protection but also chopping wood and things, clearing a way and things like that. In case some people, some of you, if you have gone to a real forest, you need something to hack your way through because there is no clear paths. So when Satyavan went there, Savitri said, I am going to come with you. Now the interesting thing about this girl, she has not stepped outside that ashram complex. She used to go to the different rishis and do pada seva, but she never went into the jungle or anything. She has never gone anywhere. Now what happened? Satyavan looked at her. For 3 days, 3 nights you have been fasting. You have been doing all the work. I know you love me. But you know what? Your body is so fragile. I don't want you to come. Now he couldn't say no to her. Because she is the sweetest thing anybody can imagine. So he said, you know what, I will send her to my father and he will say no. So she went to Dhyumatsena. Dhyumatsena thought, this girl for 1 full year has not even asked anything, not even asked a glass of water. She is the only one who is doing the seva. And all she is asking is, I will accompany my husband. So he called Satyavan and said, take care of my daughter. She has never stepped outside the jungle, so better take care of her. So Satyavan and Savitri go into the forest. Now the forest is so beautiful. All sorts of brooks going around, nice ponds, birds, all sorts of interesting things. Nothing matters to Savitri. Her mind is 100% focused on looking at Satyavan's symptoms. How is he talking? How is he walking? Is there any sign of any pending doom? Now what happened? Satyavan was collecting some fruits. Suddenly his head started aching. His entire body started aching. It's like thousands of needles were being pricked. So he said, I am feeling sleepy. So Savitri said she was mentally doing the calculation and she found the time is very near. So she put his head on her lap, and while she was calculating, suddenly she saw one very bright, very dreadful person standing in red clothes. And he was looking at her husband and he was staring at her husband. So the minute she saw him, she knew this is not any ordinary, this must be some devata. So she put Satyavan's head slowly and she asked, who are you? Please tell me, what is your intention? Yama was startled. Because normally when Yama comes, nobody can see him. He can go anywhere. And Yama understood this lady, because of her tapasya and her pativrata power, she is able to not only see, she is able to converse. Yama was like, okay, he said like, okay, I am Yama, I have come to take your husband's life. So Savitri said, why didn't you send your usual kinkaras? Usually the kinkaras used to come. Yama said, for normal ordinary people, we send kinkaras. But for someone so special like your husband, who is like once in a million kind of character, he is not a normal person, he has got so many Daivi qualities, so I came personally. And then he proceeded to throw the pasha on Satyavan and took his Atma out, his prana out, and he started going towards south. Why south? Because south is the direction of Yamas. The Dik Devata, right? For south is Yama. That's where Yamapatna is there. Now Savitri started following Yama. Yama said, don't come after me. The body is there. All animals will come and bite your husband's dead body. Go and take care of funeral. Why are you here? Now what happened? She said, I am going to be wherever my husband is. Note the point here. She didn't look at her dead body of her husband as husband. She considered the Atma as her husband. And that essence of his life was with Yama. So she said, I am going to be with you. And on top of that, she said, if I have done any tapasya, seva, any pativrata any pativrata character is there in me, and on top of that, your own grace, Yama's own grace, my path will not be a problem. Don't worry about that. And what she did was, in one fell swoop, she clean bowled Yama. Because if you, according to wise people, people who have realization, what they say is, when you hang out with people with very high dharmic ideals, you have to just walk 7 steps with them, and then you can declare they are friends for life. That is the same thing Rama, when he comes searching for Sugriva, first thing he says is, Lakshmana, light up a fire. And then he takes 7 steps around the fire and he says, from now on, Sugriva, you and I are not only best friends, you are also my brother. So that is the same ritual we find in our Hindu marriages, where we take the 7 steps around the Agni and we call that as Saptapadi, right? 7 steps. Now what happened? She declared Yama as a friend. So Yama cannot tell anything. And she said, you know what? What do friends do? What do friends do? If I go to Kicha's house and meet him, what are we going to do? We are going to chit chat. We are going to just share things what we like to share. That's what friends do, right? So Savitri said, hey, we have a long way to go. So why don't I keep talking? You don't have to do anything. You just listen. Yama said, okay, I don't have any problem. I don't have to talk. Okay. And she said, Yama, do you see one interesting point? If there is no self-control and if we go through all these different ashramas, the different ashramas what? Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. You are just going through one step to the other like a machine. But you need to really accumulate that merit of dharma. And if you don't do that, what is the point in life? And she started telling the importance of setting dharmic goals and working towards dharmic goals. And Yama was extremely pleased. He had not seen anyone like this. Maybe the previous one he saw was Nachiketas in that caliber, but Nachiketas was probably a small kid. And here is a lady who has lost her husband and she is talking high Dharma, Vedanta. Yama said, you know what, as long as you don't ask your husband's life, ask me any boon that nobody can give you, I will give you that right now. Ask me. Come on, go ahead. Savitri did not even think for a second. He said, my father-in-law is blind. Please restore his eyesight so that he can at least take care of himself. Now, without me doing seva, the man even can't go to the restroom. I have to take him, lead him there. The man is so dependent. So, please give his eyesight. Yama said, wow, okay, done. And now he said, now that I have given you, please go back. You must be already feeling tired. You already got a nice boon and your trip is worth it. And why don't you go? Savitri said, nothing doing. She said, how can I be tired in the presence of my husband? Then she said, Yama, do you see one interesting point? Yama is like, what happened? Remember, at this point, Yama is your friend. Right? How cool it will be to have Yama like your friend, right? She said, Yama, do you see this interesting thing? Normal people, to see one deva only, they have to do so much tapasya. How much blessing it is to see one deva. But here, imagine me having you as a friend. How much big blessing, how much grace you have bestowed on me. Yama is like, this girl knows how to talk. And then she says, all this is possible only when a person leads a life of dharma. So, when a person lives a life of dharma, getting a friend like Yama as your friend is not a big deal. So, that is the power of dharma. Now, she is talking about dharma here all the time. And what is Yama's name? Dharma Raja. So what happens? You go and talk, you go to Einstein and talk about very high quantum physics. He will be extremely happy, right? And if you talk properly, that is. If you go and butcher that, he will be extremely mad. So, she is talking very high essence, subtle dharma to Yama. And Yama said, you know what? I am extremely delighted to even listen to you. I don't know if you are considering yourself as lucky. I am extremely lucky to listen to someone like you who is having so much depth in dharma even at this stage of life. So, ask me any boon except your husband's life. I'll give you right now. She said, Yama, do you know my father-in-law lost his kingdom because of his eyesight. Now he has got his eyesight back. Imagine this person. He is in the forest. He is a Kshatriya. He is a Raja. What is his dharma? Rajya Paripalana. But now he can't do that. He is sitting in the forest like a rishi. And he is not that old also. So you know what? Can you make him, instead of making him Raja, any Raja, can you get back what was originally his kingdom? We are not that greedy. Can you do that, please? Please, please. And looking at the quality of her boon, what she is asking, Yama is already floating on ninth heaven. And then after pocketing the second blessing, Savitri continued walking along with Yama. Now this time she is saying, Yama, the highest dharma, ahimsa, ahimso paramo dharma. Highest dharma is ahimsa. And this ahimsa you have to do in thought, word, action. Not only to the people you like, but to all creatures. Sarva bhuta hita. You have to love all the creatures and give them their due respect. And if an enemy comes and surrenders to you, you should give protection even to that fellow. That same thing Rama is also telling. If Ravana were to surrender instead of Vibhishana, he said he would have accepted even him. Of course, Ravana's ego is bigger, so that's an impossibility. Now, Yama is feeling like so much happy in his heart. Just like a person is dying of thirst, you give him amrita. Or if he is lost in the desert, you give him water. How will he be? A person who is about to die, you give him amrita. How will he feel? Yama was feeling like that, listening to her nectarine words on dharma. Now, Yama could not control himself. He said, ask me a third boon. As long as you don't ask Satyavan's life, in my ability, I will give you anything. Ask. Go ahead. Try me. Savitri, remember? Savitri's father Ashwapati, 18 years tapasya he did for getting sons. But they never had a son. After 18 years, Saraswati came and gave a girl as the blessing. We recalled that earlier. So Savitri is thinking about her father and she is saying, that poor chap did so much tapasya, it cannot go to waste. So, can you please give some 100 sons to my father who are all rooted in dharma? Yama said, done. That's not a big deal. Done. Now, interesting thing. This time she says, I know we have come a long distance, Yama, but the road ahead is even treacherous and longer. Now Yama is listening. What else is this girl going to tell? Now she tells, Yama, this Surya Narayana, Surya Bhagavan, has got another name. His name is called Vivaswan. And being his son, your name is Vaivasvata. Now, if I go and let's say, I go to someone's house. Let's say, for example, I go to my good friend Bhartaji's house. Assume that I know his mother and father, and they had told me his childhood name. Now I go to Bharataji and say, Bharataji, do you remember you used to be called ABC when you were a small child? Now suddenly Bharataji is going to be so happy. Now she didn't do that to make Yama happy. Now she is saying, Yama, there is an interesting quality for you. You are also the Dharma Raja. The reason why you are Dharma Raja is you are always centered in Dharma. You don't go this way or that way. Just because Yama doesn't like some bad guy, he doesn't say, okay, I'll cut off 2 days from your life. Just because he likes me, he will not say okay, I'll give you 20 seconds more. So, Yama doesn't change Dharma for anyone. So, why do we repose faith in dharmic people? Now, if I have a Dharma Sankata in my life, I don't know what to do. Then what happens? Who do I go to? I go to a person who has deep dharmic chintana. So what happens? The thought process is, if you want to know a particular information correctly, truly, you don't go and ask an intelligent intellectual. You want to know what is right, the right thought process, you go and ask a dharmic person. Because the dharmic person is more interested in telling you what is Sat, what is Sat Vishya, what is truth. So, when our judgment is clouded, we always seek the dharmic people as our foundation, and we take inspiration from that. So what happens? Yama, needless to say, was extremely pleased. This girl knows Dharma inside out. What else is she left? Now he says, ask me any boon as long as you don't ask for your husband. This time she says, I know, you know what, my mother also got so many children. Why don't you also give me 100 sons? All of them having great dharmic connection. All of them having the same depth in Dharma. Yama said, okay, not a big deal, take it. Then she started continuing. See, Dharma is Sanatana. Dharma always leads you to the higher path. Dharma will always take you to moksha, and the what is good for you, what is shreyas for you, it will give you. So if you are always associating yourself with any dharma or dharmic person, you are always going to get something beneficial for you. And that is the reason why we talk about satsanga. She said, because of dharma only, Surya is in the sky. The same answer was given by Yudhishthira. When he meets Yama, who asks the question about in Yaksha Prashna. We will talk Yaksha Prashna some other time because it's a huge, vast ocean. We are not going to talk about that. But the same answer is repeated by Yudhishthira. Maybe if Yudhishthira was little like me, he would have copied the answer from this Markandeya Rishi's statement. But nonetheless, it is okay to copy dharma. And then she declared, this dharma is the reason why Bhumi is being supported. And if you do good to others, it will be considered dharma as long as you don't expect any kickbacks. As long as you are not having any expectations. That is the essence of dharma. Then she went on to tell more subtler aspects of dharma and what you need to do about dharmic actions and things like that. Now Yama could not, he could not tell anything. He was bursting in his heart with joy. He is Dharma Raja. What would he like to hear? Dharma only. And the way she articulated, like it was nobody could even come close to her. So Yama said, okay, ask me another boon like so far like what you have not asked. Ask me some better boon like without asking your husband. Savitri said, I don't want any more boons. Yama got confused. What do you mean you don't want any boons? I already gave you some boons, you have taken it. She said, no. I don't want any new boon. I want you to just follow the words what you have already given for the last boon. She said, there is no sukham for her without getting her husband his life back. And on top of that, she is a pativrata. How can she make Yama's statement of that she will have 100 sons when Yama was carrying her husband's life? Now Yama was on the back foot. Yama could not do anything. He said like, oh yeah, okay, this checkmate. Dharmic checkmate. And then Yama, he released the news and he spoke highly of Savitri's chastity, her austerity, her dharmic rooting. And Yama was so much bowled over, he could not have had a better task than honoring his own words to someone who is talking so much high in dharma. And he said, Satyavan, I am gladly releasing his life. He will have a long, healthy, prosperous life without any disease or anything. And he will, Mahabharata says, they will have 400 children. Now, biologically, that may not be possible. What it means is, when Malavi, her mother, has 100 children, it's not necessarily meaning figuratively 100 and she had 400. It means that they had many children. This is a very common thing that you will find in many of our Shastras, they add some number to amplify the message, right? To highlight the message. So I think probably that was the technique here too. And then what happened? Savitri goes back to where her husband's corpse was. And when she saw it, she came and put her husband, as soon as she put it in her lap, slowly Satyavan regained his consciousness. And Satyavan was like, he didn't know whether it was real or a dream or a nightmare. He also saw that person in that red clothing and fearful, and he was wondering, how long did I sleep? And she said, and he tried to get up, but he could not. So Savitri said, hey, don't worry, relax. We can stay in the forest. We can go in the morning. That's not a problem. And he was not sure what's happening. And he was and she kind of calmly assured him that tomorrow morning I will tell you everything. Right now you just need to relax. But Satyavan, now here is another characteristic of this great Satyavan. He looks around and he saw it was already dark. He saw this was night. And he knew his parents would get very, very worried. And he said, okay, you know what? I need to go back to my parents' ashrama. Otherwise, they will be worried for my safety. And I don't want my parents to be concerned about my well-being. I don't want to even give that much sankata to their heart. What a wonderful son. No wonder Savitri was also of the same quality. Now what happened? She tried to tell what happened, but the thing was that he was not fit for that journey back. So she was more concerned for him. But our man is like typical man, right? No, I will do, like how men are when they are lost while driving car. Don't worry about asking directions. I will go. I will do myself, that kind of thing. He said, don't worry. Everything is in my control. Dude can't even stand up. And then she said, what is the number one concern of Satyavan at this point? Number one concern of Satyavan is parents. So she makes a statement. If I have done any seva to my in-laws and my husband, if I have given away in dana, anything, and if I have done any yagas, yajnas, maintained my tapasya, vratas and things like that, let this night be good for my father-in-law and mother-in-law and my husband. If I have never spoken even one small lie, even for a joke, let my in-laws be upheld by the truth, by that satya. Wow. Imagine, we can't make such statements even if our life is, if somebody puts a gun to our head and says, hey, I have not even told one small lie. Well, most of us would fail there only. Now, keep that in context with last week we spoke about Harishchandra. And the week before we spoke about Kali Yuga and how we can create a mini Krita Yuga, though we are living in Satya Yuga. Kali Yuga, sorry. So, keep those talks in context in the mind. Now, what she did was she took her left arm and left arm of Satyavan and she put it on her shoulder. And then she put her right arm on his and she slowly, remember this fellow is just getting his prana back. So he is not going to be at his optimal. But also understand, Savitri had never stepped out of her ashrama. She doesn't know the routes, especially in dark. And there is no path. You have to hack your way. So Satyavan was guiding, go left, right, whatever, and she was coming. Now what happened? just like in movies, right? Like scene goes back to where Dyumatsena is, the father-in-law of Savitri, father of Satyavan. Suddenly in the evening he gets his eyesight back. And it was already night. So Dyumatsena and Saivya, they were like going around all the nearby paths because they don't know the path also, remember. The mother was too busy taking care of her husband and the man was blind, so they don't know any path and they don't know which way he went also. So their feet was bleeding by the thorns and the rocks and things like that, and hearing their shrieks and wails, the other rishis and brahmanas in the neighboring ashramas, they all gathered. And they said, don't worry, as long as Savitri is there, Satyavan will be fine. As long as Satyavan is there, Savitri will be fine. They will be there. And they are like, they also tried their best to go around, but they could not get any traction. So while they were talking about how these two were ideal couple and all these things, suddenly Satyavan and Savitri appeared. Satyavan still looked so tired and sick. So the rishis had one big problem. See, we have problems, rishis have different kind of problem. Rishis are all scratching their head. How did Dyumatsena get his eyesight back? Some miracle has happened. Looks like there is a connection between Satyavan and Savitri's late coming. And they were eager to solve that problem. Because they were mentally so sure that Satyavan and Savitri will be fine. So they were asking Satyavan, tell me your account. This dude said, I know nothing. I felt so sick. I just fell asleep. And I woke up and it was already night. So I was very concerned. So I came immediately because my parents will be concerned. She started talking to this fellow is useless. So they looked at Savitri and they said, please tell me how did Dyumatsena got the eyesight. So Savitri told the entire story. How she met Yama. How she got her boons and what all boons she got. The rishis were applauding Savitri and her Pativrata status so much. They could not and they would not let, remember at this day Savitri had not eaten for 4 days, 4 nights. They would not let this girl to go to even have a wink of sleep. She had gone through so much ordeal. The rishis were so excited. Who will not be? Who will not be excited to look at someone like Savitri? Is that even possible? And look at the kind of boon she has got. Next day morning, there was a huge gang of people. They came and they said, hey, we are coming from Salvadesha and to meet Dyumatsena. They told one of the ex-ministers who was very, very loyal, he collected all the people and he killed the enemy king and all his supporters, took control of the kingdom, and they said like, hey, you know what? Please, king, come back. You are the only king we love to have. Because Dyumatsena was such a good king. The praja of those days were so loyal to the king because the king was so loyal to dharma. And no kingdom, no praja would love to lose their dharmic king. Because you don't want a despot or a tyrant. You don't believe me? Come to some of the states in southern India especially, where the elected government is busy, focused only on printing Merry Christmas and destroying temples. Anyways, so Dyumatsena got his kingdom back, and so immediately he made Satyavan as the next Raja. as the crown prince. And then what he did, in due course of time, both Savitri and her mother Malavi, they gave birth to a lot of sons. Now, all of you have been patiently listening to this excellent story. What Markandeya Maharishi says is, just listening to this story, you all will be getting a lot of happiness. And whatever you people touch, you will have only success. As long as you keep remembering Savitri's story as your inspiration, you will get only success. There will be no misery in your life. That is the Falashruti. Now, it is our focus in Sanatana Marivom, whenever we try to tell you and recount a story, not to just tell you a story and disappear. We are not here to only recall the stories. We are here to make a practical connection as to how the story applies in your life and mine. And without doing that, merely listening to the story, most of us are too busy to make the connection. So, for the next few minutes, we are going to make a practical connection in our life. So, the first point is, what do we learn from all the characters? First point. Now, of course, you could go to the article that is pinned on the top and you could probably gather more information if you want to patiently read. The first point is to live in the present, live in the now. Ashwapati, when he didn't have children, what did he do? He did Purushartha in the form of tapasya, and when he got the blessing, you will get a girl child, he didn't say like, come on, I will change this Bhagavan to another Bhagavan, like how these people do, right, nowadays. Now half-baked Hindus, many Hindus are now saying, hey, you know what, Vishnu is not giving me blessing, Shiva is not giving me blessing, Ganesha is not giving me blessing, so I will go after one imported fakir, his name is Sai Baba, bye bye, Hinduism. That is not what they are doing. Ashwapati took the daughter with extreme grace as a prasada and he raised her into a beautiful woman of character. We already saw that what is a woman's grace? Woman's grace is her character. It is not her physical beauty or features which will be so beautiful in youth. When old age sets in, what happens to all that beauty? But what happens to her gunas? The real jewel of a woman's beauty is her character. So, Ashwapati raised this beautiful jewel called Savitri and she marries Satyavan despite knowing that he is a ticking time bomb. He has a life ticking. Of course, it's true for all of us. But in case of Satyavan, the counter was running faster because she knew that. Now, what she did in that 1 year? Did she spend crying like how they show Rudali? This is another myth. She didn't spend and waste her time in crying. She did 1 year full of seva to anyone and everyone who came around her. Not out of frustration with a begging bowl, but with a heart to serve. With a smile on the face, with only seva bhavana, and she didn't waste even 1 millisecond worrying, okay, this fellow is so many days minus 1, so many days minus 1. Although that feeling might have been there in the deepest recesses of her heart, it was not even evident to anyone who was living with her for 1 year. So the main lesson what we need to do is look at us. Many times we keep on worrying about, you don't know my past, all these problems I got. Now, if I join your pity party, I will sit and search that junk pile. I will be able to get 10 more things you can worry about. But sometimes we do the other way around. We are so worried about the future. We are all the time planning for one worry which we want to avoid, which never happens. 99% of the worries we imagine never come to pass. Imagine that. If even 5% of the worries what we worry for really comes to pass, oh, life will be miserable. So we are worrying about something which doesn't even happen, but our job is to worry. That's what we think. It is our dharma to do nishkamya karma, but we think it is our dharma to keep non-stop worry. Worry about the past, worry about the future, worry about the present. But we should not do that. We should live in the now. That is why we call the present as present, right? It's a gift. So we need to do our purushartha every single waking moment rooted in dharma and live a high ideal life, not high idle life. That we are already specialized in. We need to give up the high idle life and get into a high ideal life. The second point we already saw, don't spread misery. Narada gave that information only to Ashwapati and Savitri. Savitri did not come straight to Satyavan and said, husband, you know what, there is a ticking time bomb. That's all, you are gone case so many days later. She didn't go to her in-laws and say, you know what, I married my husband so much. Very beautiful guy, very handsome guy, all good Kalyana Gunas he has got, but you know what, this guy has got a counter. Narada Maharishi already told me. What, we are BBC or what? Always broadcasting junk and dirty stuff? We should put a lock on our mouth. See, we can share our misery and others can commiserate with us. But psychologically it may be helpful for you. But what am I doing? I call Kicha and say, Kicha, you know what, I got all these problems. There are two things Kicha can do. Either Kicha can feel so bad for me that he can mess up his life, or he is going to say, okay, poor guy, okay, don't worry, everything will be alright. Now, how is that going to help me? And how is my spreading my misery to him going to help him? So, watching Savitri, we learn, so how do we overcome this? That is where the message we need to take it to the right source. Let's say, for example, one husband is there. He lost a job. Now child is coming. Daddy, please get me some chocolate or something. Now the husband says, you know, beta, daddy lost the job. Tomorrow morning, no food for you. I don't know when I will get another job. The job market is so bad. Come, let's all cry. If the father is going to share that kind of thing to the child, what will happen? So, we need to grow a spinal cord and look at the problems in the eye, but we need to tap the right sources for getting the information. We can't just go to any Tom, Dick and Harry and say, okay, come on, I have a problem, I will dump all my problem on you, like you are the garbage truck, you know. Don't treat people like a trash can with a hairy lid. Now, some people don't have a hairy lid, that's another thing. I'm talking about their head. So, the other thing is, other point to understand here is, whenever we do a karma, we are so impatient for the karma phala. We put a seed tonight and tomorrow morning we want to see did I get a mango plant, mango tree, mango fruit. Furthermore, we are not even worried about getting the 2 leaves sprouted. We are like, am I getting that? Why so much time is happening? Nothing is happening. Ashwapati spent 18 years tapasya only to get a girl. He was wanting a boy. Now, he didn't differentiate between girl and boy after he got it. But his desire is there, right? We all have desires, right? I want 100 mark, but I got only 99.5. Okay. So is 99.5 bad? No. So sometimes we make big deal out of nothing. Now what really happened is like we think that these fruits were not coming in the right time. But look what happened. Ashwapati, by his own efforts, he could not get the 100 children, 100 sons he wanted. But Savitri, because of her pativrata and her tapasya, she was easily able to ask Yama, please, my father also wanted some sons, please give some extra. Okay, take it. So in Bhagavad Gita, what we are reminded again and again and again, don't hanker after the fruits. Just focus on doing your karma. You do your karma, the results are already hidden in that karma. So you put your energy in doing whether the karma is aligned with dharma. That's all. And do your karma to the fullest extent. Don't do 50%, 90% like that. Do 150%. Put your heart into it. So when you put your heart into it, you are going to get that kind of results. So delays are not denials. So many of us, we may be thinking like, hey, you know what, I wish this happened when I was a child. I wish that was happened in the... But today, hindsight, you may be thinking, man, I wish that didn't happen. How many of you feel really blessed that way? That whatever you were desiring didn't happen, that God's plan is better than your plan. The other point to take away, practical takeaway for us is, live according to the situation where you are. What is the first thing that Savitri did? She was a princess. She was the elitist of elite. But the minute she came to the ashrama, nobody told her anything. She saw her father-in-law was blind. Mother-in-law is living like a hermit. So she said, you know what? It is not right for me to have all these costly ornaments and clothes in this forest. Without anybody prompting, voluntarily, she goes inside, changes her clothes and takes off all the ornaments and puts them in a pot, and then she says, okay, let's focus and live like a... But today what we do is we live a life of fashion, status. What is status? You go and buy things with the money you don't have, which you don't need, to impress the people you don't like. Is that not true? Neighbor has something. Okay, I also need something. Well, some of you don't do that, but many of them are living a life of that. Now, if you may not be looking at your immediate neighbor, he or she may be in the same path. But basically, what happens is, we are getting inspiration from watching movies. We are getting inspiration by watching TV, the lifestyle of the useless and the famous junk. So what happens? We are living a life of falsity, and we don't want to lead that kind of false life. We want to put our mind on, we don't want to have that kind of hedonistic, kind of like a narrow, selfish, self-centered life. We want to look, we don't want to keep feeding the ego, ahamkara, again and again. As such, it is so big that it can blot the entire Paramatma out of our heart. So what we need to do is focus and live a life by feeding the viveka, by feeding the vairagya, by feeding the bhakti, by feeding the jnana. Another point we are going to look at is live in dharma. Look at that. See, the bigger the vision, lesser the hold on the ego. The bigger the vision, the bigger the ideals, we can lead a life that is deeper and richer in dharma. But if we lead a I, me, myself, self-centered life, it pushes closer and closer to adharma. What did Savitri see? See, why did Savitri have so much wisdom? Because when she was searching for her husband, where was she going? She was going from one ashrama to another ashrama. What was she doing? She was doing seva to the rishis over there and listening to them and getting the wisdom from them. So satsanga will constantly uplift us and push us deeper into a life that is rich in dharma. Just to look at the way she asked the boons. The very first thing she could have asked, hey, you know what, give me children. And she could have asked. Now, we already told that she is not a calculative person. She is not calculating. She is just living her life of dharma. So, what is the subtlest dharma she is able to grasp? She is able to see that her father-in-law Dyumatsena was suffering. Then she asked for a boon that he could do his dharma. She didn't ask for herself. She asked he could do the dharma. We see a similar pattern from Nachiketas, where the first boon he asked was for his father that he should not get angry when he goes back. Second boon he wants to know about Nachiketas Agni. Third boon only he asked for a question, please give me explanation. Same way, here also first she asks about her father-in-law. She didn't ask for her father. She asked her father-in-law. After getting 2 blessings for her father-in-law, the third one she said, for my father and mother. Then fourth one he said okay, give me something. And then the fifth one, when he said hey, I can give you a fifth one, she said, no. I don't want any more extra. I'm not there, I don't want. Please give me what you already gave me. How will I have sons without having my husband? So look at the value of the person we are trying to follow. Look at her virtues. Nishkamya seva. To anyone and everyone around. And not only Nishkamya seva, her knowledge, her wisdom is so deep. So her dharma understanding, her dharma practice, her jnana, her tapasya are all on the same level, at an extremely high level. She is not having one quality at Mount Everest, the other quality at sea level. No. All these great qualities are competing to be at Mount Everest level. So look at how she didn't say okay, you know what, I have a problem, my husband is going to die, so let me do this vrata. I will trick Yama. No, she didn't do all that calculation. She is just living a life of dharma till the end. Even while following her husband, whose life has been taken away, she is just saying that I am following my husband because it is my dharma to be with him. Wherever he goes, I have the right to go. Well, don't ask if you are married to ask your husband or wife to do that, because we are not Satyavan, they are not Savitri. Right? So we need to uplift our standards now. What else we see? We see how to lead a life of Purushartha. She doesn't go after Artha or Kama. She just says, I want to focus only on Dharma. And obviously we know, one side of the coin is Dharma, the other side of the coin is Moksha. And also, Purushartha also means the effort. What is the effort she is doing? Of course, she has spent all her life in Dharma, but the previous 3 nights and days, she is doing the Triratra Vrata for the welfare of her husband. So, what happens is this simple yet high living. Simple life, but very high dharmic living. And that is the message we get from Savitri. Now, the entire essence of the story in this last bullet, I was saving the best for the last. Savitri did not live with a body consciousness. She did not think Satyavan was the body, the mind, or the intellect, or the prana. She understood that she was an Atma, her husband was an Atma. That is why when Yama came and Yama insisted, go and do all the funerals and things like that, she said, don't worry about that. I am going where my husband is going. Because my husband's Atma is with you, that is my real husband, not that of this body. And we also get this TV portrayal that she cried like a Rudali and she fought with Yama and pleaded with him, please give my husband back. No, all that BS is false. All that is not even remotely true from what we get from Vanaparva account as narrated by Markandeya Maharishi. So, what is the highest thing? She merely talks to Yama and tells him what are the dharmic values she has understood. So, just like two friends chit chat, like if two people are interested in cricket, so they are just discussing, look at this guy, that guy, he hit 6, he got out, whatever. So, what is she interested in talking? She is interested in talking about Dharma. And who is she talking to? Dharmaraja. So, what more better combination can be there? So, she merely wowed Yama and filled his heart with happiness by talking about the subtleties of Dharma, by expounding to her heart's content. Yama had no other option but to say, what a wonderful creation. There is no other person who can be on par like Savitri. That's how Yama felt. And every single boon she got, she is only seeking it by being rooted in her Dharma, not rooted in desire or greed. Even the fifth boon, when he is saying, she says, I don't want your fifth boon. Give me my fourth boon. You already gave that. That's more than enough. How will I have children without my husband? Checkmate. So, the ultimate thought process of Satyavan and Savitri, what we get is, they live a life of that they are Atman. One important point we need to understand is we are not a body having a divine experience. We are divine beings having a bodily experience. We are Atma, that Atma's sake we are having a body. We are not a body that temporarily has a renter. This Atma come and stay. No. It's the other way around. The Atma is the one who is renting out this body and saying, okay, I'll be there temporarily in this body, then I am out. What a deep, subtle message that gets lost when we read this story. And what a powerful message to keep it on the top of our conscience when we live our lives. So the important thing is we have to realize that we are Atma. Now the second step, you can figure out what is the Atma Paramatma connection later. 99% of our job is done when we know that we are Atma, because we are almost at the doorstep of our moksha. Now how you could take that and say like, okay, Paramatma, Jivatma, this is the connection, that is last 1%. That's what we get from looking at her life. If we go to chapter 6, sloka 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan is saying that we need to uplift ourselves. By using our higher self, we need to uplift the lower self. By using a higher ideal, we need to uplift our basal thoughts. If we can do that, we are our best friend. Now here, Savitri literally shows that example. She lives the life of Dharma, that even Dharmaraja, even Yamadharmaraja himself is not able to escape from such high ideals. So, may we all absorb Satyavan Savitri's story to our heart, and we must try to translate all what we gathered as practical pointers and start applying in our lives. Our life will blossom and transform itself into, then we come to the very first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. Our body is the Dharma Kshetra. Our body is also the Kurukshetra. So we need to have that wrestling match between our lower self and our higher self, between the vasanas and the higher dharma. We need to fight that battle, and we will live a life of extreme significance and also be an example for all others around. When each and every single person is committed to such a high ideal life, then we will be recreating that Krita Yuga right here in this Kali Yuga. And that is exactly what Krishna is suggesting to us throughout Gita, that we can create that oasis in the middle of that desert. With that, let us all think about some Bhagavan Nama and close this talk. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Ram.